Hello, everyone. Our presentation today is on food insecurity in colleges and universities, a needs assessment of student population. My name is Elizabeth Jesh.
I'm Catherine Colgan.
I'm Catherine Perdomo.
And I'm Emily Pressman.
So we want to start by defining food insecurity in the US. And food insecurity is described as a lack of consistent access to sufficient food to support a healthy life. And the USDA goes further to define it as a household level economic and social condition of limited or uncertain access to adequate food. And this differs from hunger in that food insecurity considers the socioeconomic determinants that factor into healthy food. Is it accessible financially? Is it accessible based on physical proximity? These are the kinds of things we consider when we look at food insecurity. And 11.8 of the US population were declared as food insecure at some portion during the year in 2017. And concentrations of food insecurity above the US average gravitate towards the South, with states in the Northeast and Northern Midwest reporting food insecurity rates below the US national average. To zero in on our demographic for this study, it should be noted that as much as 1/2 of the college student population in the US can be considered as food insecure, according to a study in the SAGE journal, with one source noting, tuition has gone up, but the financial supports available to students have not kept up with the cost of living, which has also increased. And data is scarce all around on this issue as it pertains to college students, but especially private institutions like the one on which we conducted this study, data is not typically available. And you'll notice that the language when food insecurity has been defined often invokes the idea of adults dealing with this issue, perhaps in low-income communities or household environments. What the language inherently leaves out is that middle period in which college students are suspended. In terms of demographics, they're not quite children, but they're also not the typical image of adults working and living in society that is often associated with populations affected by food insecurity. Throughout a typical college education of 4 years, however, college students are not simply exempt from food insecurity. In fact, they are vulnerable to it as a unique population, and this is what our study seeks to define and explore. Our study was guided by the precede-proceed model, with emphasis placed on phases 1, 2, and 3. Phases 1 and 2 allowed us to determine a lack of existing data on food insecurity among college students, and phase 3 guided the research questions created to explore different facets of food insecurity among college students. The research questions were, what is the prevalence of food insecure college students? How does dietary quality indicate food insecurity among the college student population? What are the causative factors and potential solutions? And is there a difference in students' perception of dietary quality and indicators of food insecurity based on food security status? Our methodology contained a cross-sectional survey featuring 19 items, which had a range of question styles, including multiple choice, Likert scale, and open-ended questions. We also used chi-square tests to determine differences between food insecure and food secure students. We used a randomly selected targeted sample of 3,000 students on a mid-sized private college in the Northeast, featuring freshmen, sophomore, junior, senior, and graduate students. We had about a 20% return rate, with between 366 and 510 students answering most of the questions. In terms of our participants themselves, we had about 40% respondents in the freshman and sophomore category and 60% junior and seniors. In terms of majority, most of the students who answered were of junior status, female in gender, and white in ethnicity.
So going to our results, displayed here is figure 1, and it is the prevalence of food insecurity. So this represents students who perceive themselves as food insecure. The data collected shows that 17.5% of students at the mid-sized private institution in the Northeast studied perceive themselves as food insecure. This slide displays Table 2, which presents the perception that these particular students have regarding their dietary quality. This was conducted using a Likert scale to measure how strongly students agreed or disagreed with the statements provided on the left. A significant number of students disagree with the statement that their diet is nutritionally balanced. Students also expressed that they would expect their diets to reflect a higher quality if they had the funds necessary to be able to afford more nutritious and balanced meals. This table represents Table 3, and it reflects the percent of student responses on their hunger trends. Alarming numbers are reflected as we see that 11.3% of students regularly do not eat enough food in a day. A percentage of students also report that they go to sleep hungry and do not know when their next meals will come from, numbers that should not exist at all if students were food secure. Displayed is Table 4 on this slide, and it is perceived causative factors associated with food insecurity. Students reported that financial obstacles were the highest perceived cause of food insecurity, an assumption that aligns with the perception of their potential dietary quality. The top 3 choices also include lack of accessibility to healthy food and time for cooking.
Figure 5 shows the results of student perceptions of solutions to help food insecure students. Students were asked to select their top 5 choices for potential solutions to food insecurity on campus. As seen in Figure 5, 73.6% of students believe that more on-campus access to healthy food options is a potential solution to food insecurity among college students. Furthermore, 73.6% of students believe that dining halls should offer more affordable pricing. Additionally, 68.3% of students believe that students should be able to donate leftover or unused dining hall meal swipes for other students to use. 68.3% of students reported that there should be more awareness and accessibility to on-campus free food. Lastly, 59.10% of students believe that there should be free guest swipes for students without meal plans. These results indicate that students are aware of food insecurity on college campuses and want sustainable solutions to be implemented. The survey gave students the options to leave a comment regarding food insecurity. The most common student responses regarding food insecurity voiced concern about dining halls, incompatible hours, overpriced food, and limited options. There were also requests for increased education about healthy eating habits and better options for those with dietary restrictions. These comments reflected the results previously collected and presented in Figure 5. Most surprisingly was the amount of feedback from students requesting the use of donation swipes. Students were asked questions regarding their current dietary quality and eating habits on a Likert scale, ranging from strongly disagree to strongly agree. The chi-square tests were used to examine whether there are differences between food insecure students and food secure students concerning their responses to these perception questions. The test revealed a significant difference between these two groups, p-values ranging from 0.0 to 0.01, as shown on Table 5 and 6. This suggests that food insecure students feel that the status of their food insecurity determines if their diet is nutritionally balanced. Table 6 examined the differences between food insecure and food secure students in regards to their perceptions of their eating habits based on food insecure status. This indicates that there are statistically significant differences between the food insecure and food secure groups of students concerning their responses to their perception about the quality of their eating patterns.
In regards to our original research questions, the results have allowed us to make several conclusions. With consideration to our first research question on the prevalence of food insecurity, the results indicated that about 17% of this college student population self-identified as food insecure. If this percentage is applied to the total student population of approximately 6,000 students, there could be approximately 1,020 students who perceive themselves as food insecure at this particular college. This result is both surprising and demonstrates that food insecurity is an issue at this college. In regards to our second research question, revolving around the ways in which dietary quality may indicate food insecurity for the student population, we found that the students' perceptions of their dietary quality show that financial status has an effect on their diet. Additionally, the chi-square tests on the differences in perceptions of dietary quality by food insecurity status show that there are differences between food secure and food insecure students in their perceptions of dietary quality. The differences that exist between these two groups are important to highlight as they serve as descriptive indicators to explain food insecurity within this specific population. Our results also allowed us to make conclusions about our third research question, which focused around the causative factors associated with food insecurity for this population. The top 4 causative factors associated with food insecurity were financial obstacles, lack of accessibility to healthy food, lack of time for cooking, and a lack of transportation. These factors are important to consider as they provide potential areas to target the issue of food insecurity on this particular campus that would be the most successful for this specific population. Our fourth research question surrounding the potential solutions to food insecurity that would be the most successful for this population were also informed by our results. The top solutions that students proposed to target food insecurity were more on-campus access to healthy food options, lower dining hall meal prices, the ability to donate leftover or unused dining hall meal swipes, and greater access to on-campus free food. These results show that there are realistic strategies to target food insecurity among this population. However, these solutions would require the college to revise policies surrounding the dining hall and other means of obtaining on-campus food. Our final research question, which revolved around the differences in students' perceptions of dietary quality and indicators of food insecurity based on food security status, were also informed by our results. Examination of the chi-square test data and the contingency tables revealed that when compared to food secure students, a higher number of food insecure students reported that their diets are of poor nutritional quality, their health is negatively impacted by their current diet, the overall quality of their diet would be better if they had more available funds to spend on nutritionally rich food, the accessibility to healthy food determines their dietary quality, they lack enough food in a day, they regularly skip meals, and they're unsure where their next meal is coming from. These results indicate that perception differences do exist by food security status when considering dietary quality and indicators of food insecurity. Finally, the comments we received are also important to be considered. As previously mentioned, the main comment themes we received from students revolved around an increased food pantry awareness, greater cooking and nutrition education courses, and issues with the dining hall hours and prices. These comments should be integrated into the college's approach to target food insecurity, as they include the specific population's perspective to address this issue. There are several limitations to our research. Due to the fact that this study employed a cross-sectional design, it cannot confirm causation. Other limitations of these types of studies include that cross-sectional studies only examine an issue during a single point in time. Additionally, our research only examined this issue at one college, and therefore our results may not necessarily represent the situation of food insecurity at other colleges and universities in the United States. Our study also employed self-reporting of answers from participants, which can be accompanied with issues surrounding honest answers, self-reflection, and a low return rate of surveys. Based on the results and comments we received from students, we believe that there are effective and realistic strategies to target the issue of food insecurity within this college student population. Each of the recommendations that we are going to present each target the top 4 causative factors associated with food insecurity. To target the financial obstacles that contribute to food insecurity among this population, our recommendation is to reduce the price of college meal plans with specific consideration to students with demonstrated financial need. This could manifest itself in a sliding scale meal plan option. Additionally, budgeting workshops that teach students how to purchase healthy and affordable foods could be offered as a mandatory freshman seminar. To target the lack of transportation that students identified as a causative factor, the college should begin offering free ride programs to local grocery stores, including trips facilitated by paid student drivers. To address the factor of accessibility to healthy food, there should be an increased awareness of the resources available to food insecure students, such as increased advertising of the food pantry with social media and campus-wide announcements. Additionally, the college should offer free sustainable gardening programs to increase both access and awareness to healthy food. To address the final issue of cooking, the college should begin offering more cooking classes in conjunction with the budgeting workshops to enable students to learn how to cook quick and healthy meals. If these recommendations are employed, these efforts have the capacity to improve the nutritional status and quality of life for college students and future students to come.
As for moving forward with this type of research, we suggest basing future interventions on the intervention mapping framework. Ideally, this would be used in conjunction with the pre-seed-proceed model. Phase 1 of intervention mapping would use the previous sampling, this study, as a needs assessment. Phase 2 would then use this study's results to create objectives for change. Phases 3 and 4 of intervention mapping would allow the proposed solutions we discussed to guide the intervention, and phases 5 and 6 would create plans to sustain change and implement further evaluation methods on a more regular basis.
In conclusion, we've found that food insecurity does exist at this college. As outlined in our recommendations, we believe that there are realistic efforts to successfully target this issue at this particular college. Given that food insecurity data from other colleges and universities in the US is limited, we recommend that the issue of food insecurity is studied by other colleges and universities in the US to add to the existing literature on this important public health issue. Thank you.
Thank you.